It's time for Fridays with AI, where we ask AI to rewrite Philly sports history. Every Friday, only on This Day in Philly Sports History.
That's right. It's time for Fridays with AI. And this might be the biggest Fridays with AI that we've had in a while. Fridays with AI is brought to you by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com. Check out all of their Philly sports based apparel and accessories. I've talked about the rocks glasses, the coolers, slides, golf shirts, you name it. Philly Goat has it. Go rep Philly. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com, promo code Jim Montgomery, and they are our sponsor for Fridays with AI. So the NBA draft is Wednesday. On Monday, we talked about that horrible pre-draft day that the Sixers had when they had traded the number one pick and Moses Malone basically for a bunch of crap. And it really sent the Sixers into a tailspin for 10 years. Like they made the playoffs a couple times with Charles Barkley, but they were never really a serious contender, I guess you could say, until Allen Iverson came. So I went to AI this week, and essentially this Fridays with AI, there's three different scenarios that could have happened. All three of how AI played these out are better than what happened in reality. So let's start with scenario one. They trade Moses but keep the pick, which probably is highly likely because they were looking to move on from Moses anyway. But Charles Barkley and Brad Daugherty, according to AI, become a formidable like twin towers down low, kind of like the thump and bump that they tried to do with Rick Mahorn and Charles. But they still remain a contender. And you had kind of the end of Dr. J's run. You still had Mo Cheeks. You had a banged up Andrew Toney. But with just those two and a lack of shooters, they never really get over the hump. They wouldn't have been good enough to get past the bad boy Pistons and the Bulls of the time. Maybe, though, it changes the way they draft. I feel because it was almost like a curse or a jinx that they traded that number one pick. And so maybe that changes the way they draft. Uh, but I don't know. I think there was just a ton of bad karma for doing that because they had acquired that pick back in the 70s and we're sitting on it. I think this was the pick that they got rid of when they traded Kobe Bryant's dad, Jelly Bean Bryant, to the Clippers in exchange for this pick years and years and years later. Turned out to be the number one pick. And I think the basketball gods are like, you guys are just screwing up. Unfortunately, in this scenario, though, Barkley still likely gets frustrated due to the front office's lack of getting them quality shooters behind him and or playing in front of him and Daugherty. Once a ring, and Daugherty was out of the league around the same time as like 93, 94, as Charles got traded anyway. Hersey Hawkins just was not the answer for this team in reality and even in AI. They needed a shooter that they never got, so they were never able to quite get over the hump. Although you had two big thump and bump, twin towers, whatever you want to call them, perennial all stars. But it keeps the Sixers competitive at least, and they don't go into the dreck and the tailspin that they went in. Scenario two, they keep Moses but trade the pick. Probably the unlikeliest of the three scenarios because they wanted to get younger, they wanted to get faster. They didn't think Moses was going to come back from the fractured orbital bone anyway. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, they keep him. This one, AI was very high because Moses still played at a high level after the trade. They were formidable, kind of, again, the thump and bump. You had the old vet, the young upstart. They would be able to hang with the bad boys with Moses Malone. Moses was savvy. Moses had the championship pedigree. And in 1987-88, AI says they would have taken down the bad boys, got to the finals, and lose in an epic 7-game series. And that was pretty much the high point if they would have kept Moses. And they continue to miss on the draft picks. Again, I think it comes back sometimes that you just don't have the confidence. Look at Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman wasn't always a great drafter, but once he started getting that swag and he has confidence, I feel like the guys they drafted this year are going to have an impact on this team. That's what the Sixers lacked. And I think it went the other way. Talk about momentum and snowballing and all this all the time. That's what happened with the Sixers with the draft picks. They still end up trading Moses eventually, and then ultimately end up trading Barkley right around, again, around the same time. But they do have that finals run where they were able to get past the Pistons and go toe to toe with the Lakers. Now, scenario three would be the perfect situation. And if they kept Moses and brought in Brad Daugherty, Moses could have served not one as a player and a contributor on that team, and then a mentor for Charles and Brad Daugherty. So in this scenario, they come out and win 58 games that first season, Brad Daugherty in the 86-87 season, lose to the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Final. However, this is where it gets crazy because I did a lot of research on this one, and this could have really happened. Dr. J retired after that season. Sixers realizing they're on the cusp and they need somebody to fill that void at small forward, get aggressive and snag Scottie Pippen. And Scottie went, I believe, fifth in that 87 draft, all by Seattle, was traded to the Bulls. So there's no doubt in my mind because the Sixers, by not trading Moses Malone, would have had the draft capital to maybe entice a team like the Supersonics to trade a couple picks. They didn't really have the players, but I looked at it and spent way too much time looking on the potential Scottie Pippen to the Sixers. Very plausible scenario. So Pippen that first year is a six man off the bench, uh, defensive specialist his rookie year. They get back to the finals. Just both the scenarios, they get back to the finals against the Lakers in 87, 88, still lose to the Lakers in 7. However, 88, 89, all of a sudden you have a big three of Scottie Pippen, Brad Daugherty, and Charles Barkley. They win the title, forever changing Charles Barkley's legacy as the best player to never win a championship. He's the finals MVP. And then from there on out, they're consistently in the Eastern Conference Final. They go on a run of like 5 or 6 straight Eastern Conference Finals. They likely win it in 1991. So they were battling with the Bad Boys. Bad Boys get them a couple times, but without Scottie Pippen being on the Bulls, the Bulls look entirely different. And then Jordan, the Sixers, then become the team that Jordan can't get past. It was the Celtics, it was the Pistons, and in this scenario, it's the Sixers that he can just never get past. So the Sixers go back to the finals, get their revenge against the Lakers in 1991. And because of this, winning 2 titles there in the late 80s, early 90s, it changes the dynamic of the Sixers Celtics rivalry as well. It becomes more like Red Sox Yankees. Yes, the Celtics have more, but the Sixers are right there, the team of the now, just like the Red Sox Celtics. Pippen, though, really, really excels and becomes a Hall of Famer in this scenario as well. Not playing in Michael Jordan's shadow, but it changes the whole landscape of the NBA. And it's amazing how one, or in this case, 2 trades changed the entire landscape of the Eastern Conference in the NBA. Had the Sixers kept that pick and took Brad Daugherty, who was hands down the consensus number 1 pick that year, you see what happens. Sixers win 2 titles. Michael Jordan probably is still the GOAT, but maybe he's more in a looked at as a LeBron James type GOAT. You never know. It's just an interesting way to look at it. But that is Fridays with AI, brought to you by Philly Goat. Let me know what you think. I think, like I said, scenario 3 is very plausible. I looked every which way, and the Sixers certainly could have made that move for Scottie Pippen. But let me